In this episode of Making Digitals Your Own, we're going to transform digital papers into a lovely hexagon card. Welcome, it's Barbara from Vienna, Austria. So you will recognize the shape of the hexagon instantly if you follow my friend Luisa Heinzel's channel. She recently posted a video called From Mars Over Mexico to Austria, and it was a 5-item swap with Juliana Michaels. So that's where the inspiration for my piece of ephemera came from, and I immediately fell in love with this hexagon shape, just like Louisa did. And Louisa, of course, also made an incredible embellishment, which was inspired by this hexagon, but she made it with circles, which turned out so amazing. So please check that video out as well. I wanted to challenge myself to make this ephemera piece with the hexagon shape without having all the things. I don't have the hexagon die. I don't have this fancy flower die. So I'm going to use my digitals for this month, which is the Mushroom Garden Kit, which you can find linked below, to embellish my card. And you can do this obviously with any images that you have. And as a base for my hexagons, I'm going to use this cardstock with a linen texture. I've had this for so long. I got this at Action, which is a Dutch chain. Use any cardstock you like. I would not use just plain copy paper because for me it would be too thin. As you can see, this one is 220 GSM. So I'll tear out a couple of these papers. Yeah, you can see the linen texture here. So I need 3 hexagons that I can layer on top of each other. And actually hexagons are very simple to make. So I'm going to start off with 7 centimeters. And I'm going to place that fairly in the middle of my page. And I will put the inch measurements on the screen for you. So I'm just going to draw a straight line, 7 centimeters. It does pay off to be accurate for this. I know junk journalers usually just wing it, as I do as well. But for this, you do need to be accurate because you want to stack them and you want the distance on the edge to be even. And then I'm going to take my compass and I'm going to make it the width of my line. So 7 centimeters, like that. And then I'm just going to turn it and make an arch fairly in the center from one end. Then I'll put the tip onto the other end. I'll again make my line here pretty much in the center, and then I have this point here in the middle of the cross. So then I just set the tip of my compass right into the middle of that cross to that point. And then I'm going to draw a circle, a full circle. Okay, so now I have my full circle, and now all I need to do is, I'm always keeping the same measurement. That's very important. I'm going to again put my tip here on one side of the line, and I'm just going to mark my circle once here, then put my tip into that mark where the line's crossed and do that again, and do the same thing on the other side. I'm going to put my tip at the end of the line, mark here on my circle, and again put my tip into that and mark my circle. So as you can see, now we have our 6 points already, and all we need to do is connect them. Again, try to be as accurate as possible. So that's my first hexagon. Then I'm going to use the other side of the paper. And I'm going to do the same thing, except I need it, of course, a little bit smaller. So this is going to be my largest hexagon. And this time I will do 5 millimeters less. So again, I'm trying to eyeball to kind of center this so that my circle will fit on this page. I'm going to do 6.5 centimeters. So again, put the measurement there for you in inches. So same process. I'm taking my compass, I'm putting the needle in one end, and I'm adjusting the size to fit the length of my line. Then we're going to make the cross from both of our ends of the line, sort of in the middle, so that we get this cross here. Then we draw our circle by putting the tip of the compass right in the middle of the cross. Ooh, that's going to be very close, but I think it will be okay. And then we're going to take the tip, put it again on the line here and cross the circle once, put the tip into the line and do that again. And then we do the same thing from this side. Cross our circle once, put the tip in and cross our circle again. And again, we will connect our dots. And we do the same thing for a third time. And this time I'm going to take 6 centimeters. So again, 5 millimeters less. And do exactly the same thing. So once I have all 3, I'm just going to cut those out. Obviously, it would have been much smarter to make these lines on the back side of my paper. Then I wouldn't have to worry about erasing the pencil lines. Of course, you could also use colored or patterned cardstock for these shapes. So if all of our measurements were precise, then these should stack up nicely. And I see here that actually, I don't know why, the distance between the first 2 layers is a lot less than between the second and the third layer, even though they're all 5 millimeters apart. I'm just going to go with it. It's totally fine. And if you see that one of your shapes is a bit wonky, you could first of all try to move it and see if that will help. And if it doesn't, you either just accept it because we're making this for junk journal, or you just straighten your edge. And who cares if it's an exact hexagon or not. So next I have to figure out what colors I want to have these. And those will be determined by my focal point. So I printed out this Mushroom Garden collage sheet. It's number 3 of my kit. Again, you can find that link below. And I printed it on the same linen cardstock. I really like the texture. And I think the best image for this shape here and size is going to be this interesting mushroom right here. So I'm just going to fussy cut that. I like cutting the bigger shape with the bigger scissors. And then for the actual details, I'll use some smaller scissors. It's much easier to use these now for the details. And I am leaving a border because there's no way I could cut out all these little details. So I have this now. And I think the size is really good for my hexagon card. So I think this color is definitely one that I want to add to one of my layers. And I think a color that would match that really well is the Distress Oxide Spray Saltwater Taffy. If you don't have sprays, use watercolors, use acrylic inks, anything you want. Or as I said, use colored cardstock or patterned cardstock. Then I also want to use some mica stain, which I'm currently still obsessed with. I'm going to try this Frozen Fog, which is a new one for me. Very excited about this one. It's this beautiful silvery color. And I also have a lot of blues in my Mushroom Garden kit, as you can see here. So I want to add a blue as well. And I'm using this Distress Mica Stain Snow Flurries, also a new one. So for my biggest hexagon, I'm going to use the Saltwater Taffy. I don't need to worry about the middle. Then I'm going to dry this. This is what it looks like when it's dry. I love the irregular coloring. And since I already messed up the back anyway, I'm going to take that as inspiration. I'm going to add some water to these droplets of the saltwater taffy, and then I'll go through it with my finger. Maybe I'll also spray this a little bit, and then I'll just add some of that because we are going to see the back side of this card as well. So again, I will dry that. And since I have so much left over, I'm just going to take another piece here and mop that up. So this is the back side now when it's dry, and this is the front. And I'm also going to add some water splatters because I want this to be more irregular. So I'll just squeeze it very lightly to just get some drops rather than a fine mist. Again, I'm obviously concentrating on the edges. And then I'll take a paper towel and mop up that water. Hopefully we'll see some nice oxidation. You never know how it's going to turn out if you're using a new kind of paper. Oh yes, this is perfect. Okay, and I'm wondering, I could also add a few splatters of this frozen fog. Just using the nozzle. So now I have this. I'm not sure how much I'm loving that, but I'm just going to keep it for now and we'll see what it looks like once we stack all the hexagons on top of each other. So then the next bigger hexagon is going to get the frozen fog mica stain. So this is what it looks like when it's dry. Has this beautiful silver shine, although I'm not quite sure this is dark enough. I might need to go a little bit darker. We'll see at the end. Again, I'm going to mop this up with this paper. And the smallest hexagon is going to get the snow flurries. Oh wow, what a gorgeous color. And you see these lines that form at the edge of your paper because all the ink is going there. You can just take some paper towel and get rid of that. So this is our top layer. I actually do still see the dark areas here, but not as much as when I wouldn't have dabbed some of that away. So again, this has a beautiful shine. And I will be covering some of this up. So these are our 3 layers. Wow, I would never combine these colors usually. But hopefully in the end, I'll be happy with the results. So again, I don't want to waste this. I'll add a little bit of water. I'll go through it with my finger. Then I'll actually dry this one first. I need a little bit more water. This has dried quite a bit. Yep, this looks like a total mess. So my next step is to add walnut stain on all of the edges of all of these elements because this is just way too bright and not vintage enough for me. So this is way too much blue for me. So I'm going to cover up some of this. Again, taking inspiration from Juliana's hexagon card. So she covered this with some cardstock that she stamped on. And instead, I'm just going to use a piece of book page. So I will first draw the shape. I'll cut that out and then we'll see where to tear it. Okay, so I want this on here like this, and I think I want my tear going like that. I also need to think, is this going to be just a free floating card, or is this a card I want to actually add maybe as a flip out to my journal? Because if this was going to be a flip out, I might consider turning this like that so that I have a straight edge like this, so I could easily flip this out. Because if I do it like this, I have the tip here and that will be more difficult. No, I think this will be a free floating card, so I will leave it like that, and this can go like that. I'm happy with this amount of blue showing, so I'm going to ink around these book page edges as well. And I want to add a little bit more grunge to this book page, so I'll use some tea dye distress oxide. You can just use coffee. I'm just being lazy here. adding some water. Then I'll go through it with my finger and then I'll just dab this onto my book page. Much better. So let's put this back. I'm going to stitch around this top layer, but first I'll just use a glue stick to hold it in place. And if, like me, you can't sew a straight line, even if your life depended on it, just do what I do, go around it a few times and make it look intentional. And as you can see, I also sewed along this edge here. And next I want to add a little bit more texture, and I found this netting. This is from the grocery store. I don't quite remember if this was from potatoes or limes, but it has, I think, a beautiful color for this piece of ephemera. Cheesecloth obviously would be another fun option. You can always dye your cheesecloth. Do we put it on top or underneath? No, maybe on top is too much. Let's add it underneath. Okay, let's trim that down a little bit. And I wonder, maybe it would look cute to have some of this peeking out between the bottom two layers. I like the look of that. Let's add another piece. And maybe even one more. Actually, why not just put it all around? I'm liking this. Is that too much? Might be too much. Okay, let's reduce again. Yeah, I think that's better. I'm ready to glue the pieces onto each other. It wouldn't be me if I wouldn't add some gold splatters. So I'm just going to be lazy and use my icing dye spray by Seth Apter called Gold Mine and use the nozzle. Maybe not. Oh yeah, there we go. Juliana and Louise both added the sentiment "you do you" to their ephemera, so I want to do that as well because I love that sentiment and it goes so well with this series, Making Printables Your Own. So I have this tiny alphabet stamp set here. It's by Studio G. I found this in one of the craft stores in the US, maybe Hobby Lobby, maybe Michael's, I do not remember. I hardly ever use this, so I'm happy to have an opportunity. Very wonky. I'm going to leave my perfectionism aside. I'm so proud of myself right now. Then I saw that Juliana used these dimensional dots on hers, and I thought that was really cute. Hers are in gold, but since I already have gold splatters, I want to use a different color. So I'm taking my little treasure box, and I have this new tool. I don't remember what it's called. I will put it on the screen here. I never understood how these things worked when I saw them in videos. So they have two different tips, a larger one and a smaller one, and they're a little bit sticky. And with these, you can pick up really small pieces like these, for example. Look how cool. I think this is so fun. And apparently when they don't stick as well anymore, you can just wet them a little bit with water to make them sticky again. I guess they have too much dust on them then. So I'm going to try some blue dimensional dots, and I have two different blues that I want to try. So I'm just going to pick up a few of these blue ones and see where that takes us. This tool is super handy. Very impressed with this. I think that works, no? And also really practical for gluing the pieces down. And I always use too much glue. This is so much easier than just working with your tweezers. So after all that talk about what angle to add the focal point to, depending on how we want to add it to the page, I have changed my mind and I want to add it as a flip out, but I still can do that, it's no problem. So I'm going to face it this way. I actually don't mind that it's not straight. And I will use a piece of fabric to connect the two pieces. This is a scrap of a fabric by eBond and I have coffee dyed it. It's approximately the right size. I'm using my fabric glue thinned down with a little bit of water as always. I'm not doing a great job with this. I want to get it right on the edge. I have a feeling this is too thin, so I'll add some more glue right onto the fabric. So I dried it with my heat gun and now we have a beautiful one-of-a-kind hexagon card crafted from digital papers. I hope this inspires you to continue making digitals uniquely your own. Love you guys. Mwah, mwah.